thank you so much for being here, for agreeing to talk to us. This means everything to us, seeing you live, present in Tbilisi. And to start with, I'd like to ask you one question that I'm sure you've been asked many times over the last couple of days. What brought you to Georgia? And tell me a little bit about the plans about the film school, which is so exciting to all of us.
Fantastic. That's what brought me here. The David Lynch Foundation, who started here, David Lynch Foundation Caucasus, and Giga and his team, along with Roger Kingsley and Leslie, asked me to come here and start the talks for a University of Cinema and possibly leading to a film festival. So get this thing, going here in Georgia.
Mm-hmm. And how is the university envisaged? What will be the main activities? It will be about filmmaking?
There's three things that it's going to be technical knowledge, so people, know how to run all this equipment that we have at our, disposal. And learning by doing. Mm-hmm. There's nothing like learning by doing. You can talk and talk and talk, but until you get in there and start, doing it yourself, you don't really know. And when you learn by doing, you remember what works and what doesn't work, and you can build a way of going that's, very good for you. And it's a process of action and reaction, experimentation, and learning by doing. It's so beautiful. And then the third thing is for those who want it to accelerate creativity and happiness in the doing, learn Transcendental Meditation.
This will be a first school of this kind that will open in
There's the schools that have consciousness-based education, mm-hmm. where, the students and teachers, practice Transcendental Meditation. Always the same. Even if a school is troubled to begin with, once they get this technique for the students and teachers and staff and the principal, within 1 year, you've got a school that's, blissful, and grades go up, all the problems start, going away. Fighting stops, teachers start to love to teach again. All these relationships improve, and students can focus and comprehend, and it's so beautiful. All the torment goes out of the students, and it's absolutely like night and day when you introduce this technique.
You discovered these techniques several decades ago.
Mm-hmm.
Could you tell us a little bit about how it happened, and how did it assist you, and how did that experience change throughout the decades?
Okay, so it happens to human beings that we might not be interested in something like this, and I wasn't interested in meditation. I thought it was a fad and a waste of time.
Raisins and nuts. I really like that metaphor.
Yes. But I tell the story. I heard this phrase: "True happiness is not out there. True happiness lies within." But the phrase doesn't tell you where the within is, nor how to get there. So I'm thinking it's a very frustrating phrase, but I still believed that we human beings have some within that holds, so much positive, for us. But how do you get there? And then I thought maybe this crazy thing of meditation is a way to go within. So I started looking into many forms of meditation, because they're out there, many. Nothing seemed right. Nothing seemed that it was going to really get the within. And then my sister called and told me she started Transcendental Meditation. I liked what she told me all about, the technique. But more importantly, I heard a change in her voice, more self-assuredness, more happiness. And I could tell that she had changed. And I said, I want this technique, and I went and got it. Then that I'm a human being like everybody else. The same things happen to me that happen to others. I started getting happier, and any kind of melancholy or depression just was going, and I started feeling more self-assured. I started seeing this anger that I've been taking out of my first wife just going and not even trying. So I started enjoying life more and enjoying the work more. I was creative before, but I didn't have this inner strength, and you have to have that in the film business. You have to have it in life, and it's there, and you just got to unfold it.
Nevertheless, your devotion to transcendental meditation, many people perceived it found it kind of strange or dubious because it didn't tie in with your artistic persona. Mm-hmm. You've been named one of the US's darkest directors, notorious shock artist, so on and so forth. And New York Times even wrote that trying to create world peace through meditation might simply be the most Lynchian thing David Lynch has ever done. Mm-hmm. Why do you think people reacted this way? Do you see the contradiction?
I see the contradiction for sure. I fall in love with certain ideas. And I fall in love for two reasons: the idea itself and the way cinema could tell the idea. So I'm looking at it from a completely different angle. I'm not trying to send a message. I'm trying to translate ideas that I've fallen in love with to cinema or to painting or to whatever medium. And this process is so thrilling to me. And so I happen to fall in love with these particular stories that cinema can say, and I do that. Mm-hmm. But what they don't know is how much more happy I am in the doing. And it's hard to measure that kind of thing. And they don't know how much more energy I have to do the things. And it's not always so easy, but I feel the ideas are flowing, way more, and I feel that these ideas are more easily caught and appreciated. So I've found, for myself personally, this technique is so beautiful for the work and the life.
I'd like to quote your words. Anger and depression and sorrow are beautiful things in a story, but they are like poison to the filmmaker or artist. They're like a vast grip on creativity. You are a master who probably, better than anyone else in today's world and age, has mastered depictions of precisely human sorrow, human pain, the dark side of human mentality, psyche, behavior. Was it the meditation that allowed you to create certain distance, creative distance, and that's why perhaps you mastered this depth, unparalleled depth?
In a way, yes. It's like you have a kind of a safety barrier build up, and I say it's like a flak jacket for stress and negativity builds up. This happiness inside is like a flak jacket, a protection. It's strange, and it's really beautiful.
So this idea of a tormented artist, like
because
Michelangelo, Sylvia Plath, so many.
I've told this story before. I think it came from the French, the starving artist in the garret. Yeah. Okay, so now you picture this artist. It's a very romantic idea for people to think about. But it's not romantic for the artist in the garret, who's cold, starving,
suicidal,
poor, and probably getting very depressed and possibly sick, doesn't feel like working. And but if he put on a pretending of this, it would be to get women to come take care of him, possibly. You see what I mean? So, but it's like absurd to think that suffering is necessary to make art. And like you think about Van Gogh. Van Gogh had a tough life. Everybody knows this. But he wasn't suffering when he was painting. He went out to paint because he loved to paint. He didn't go out and stab himself in the chest. He went out and did something he loved. And this was probably his only source of happiness. So, but he wasn't suffering when he was out painting. And this is what is so important to understand. You don't need to suffer to make art. And in fact, the more you suffer, the less you're going to do. And so it's common sense. The happier you are, the more free of negativity you are, the better your work is going to be, and the more those ideas are going to flow, the more energy you're going to have, and the whole thing is just beautiful for the artist or the human being.
Now the question, what are you trying to say with your films? Is
I'm not
probably
trying
one
to say,
that
I'm not,
is
okay.
being, no, I'm just
Okay.
trying to say that
Okay.
this is a question that you're being asked over and over again. Every single journalist, every single one of your fans know, Steve, that you are not answering these questions because you don't like reducing your art to words. Nevertheless, this question keeps coming up, and even though we are still recovering from the sheer enjoyment and shock of the Twin Peaks: The Return, and we might also be dying to ask you at least what year it was. We're not going to do that. But I'd like to ask you, why do you think this question keeps coming up? Is it because people are used to this, we've gotten used to simple plot lines, logic, and therefore we muted our intuition somehow, and we don't allow full enjoyment of cinematic experience?
There's a whole bunch of things to say. Some people don't like not knowing. They want things to be concrete, spelled out, and they want to understand everything, every single thing. And others, they want something that kicks in a dream, something that conjures something bigger than what is actually there. Even though it's very abstract, they like that, and that person is me as well. But I'm not trying to say anything. I am trying to be true to ideas that I've fallen in love with and translate those ideas and have fun in the work of translating those to one medium or another. And staying true to the idea means that you stay true to every element that goes into the thing, with the hope that that thing happens, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. And I like stories that hold concrete things and abstract things. You know, the way life is, everybody knows that it's not just a surface thing. There are things going on that we don't really see, but we sense. And these things are things that cinema can say. And the cinema can say things, like I was saying yesterday, that are difficult to put into words. It's a language that can say abstract things.
Is it because of this, your approach, that it has to create a one whole entity, an idea has to develop into cinematic language, that there have been many, many great directors in history of cinematography, but I could think of only two, you and Federico Fellini, that adjectives formed out of their work, Lynchian and Fellini-esque. In literature, I suppose it will be a Kafkaesque and Borgesian, not many also. So how does your approach to cinematography differ? How is it possible to create a world that is your own?
I understand, but I don't know how it happens so much. It's just like what I like to do. I like to, it's not even what I like to do. I get an idea, and the idea is like a gift. You know, on Christmas morning, when you get an idea that you fall in love with, it's a present. It's so beautiful. And so then the thing is to translate that to cinema and get into that world, be true to the idea, and get it as good as you can get. And then, then you've done it.
Again, I'm not asking anything concrete, but episode 8, season 3, can you at least tell me something about the idea, or how did it happen? This revolution on small screen, you've done many revolutionary acts, big and small, in cinema, but this one was came as a shock even to your devoted fans. It was so fantastic. Anything you can tell us about that episode? We would greatly appreciate.
Not really. Sorry.
Okay, I see.
Maybe later, maybe sometime.
I'd like to ask you about words. Do you somehow, one of the reasons why you don't like to talk about the films, is it because you find words a little bit reductive somehow? I know one of your first films, The Alphabet, I love it. It was a very, very early movie about a little girl having nightmares of ABCs. And also words in your cinema are like an ornament, one of the components of many, many other things. So what is your approach to word and cinematography?
I love words, and words are very beautiful, and they can say a lot. And poets, it's their whole thing is words, and forming sentences that can conjure abstractions and say something that cinema could say. So they're very beautiful. And words are a way to record ideas. And I always say, when you get an idea, you need to write it down. And since I was little, I learned this language, English. So I write in that language. These words that when I read them again, the idea comes back in full. So you try to make the sentences be true to the idea, and so when you read it again, you remember the idea fully. And that's very important, because one can forget a great idea. It seems like it would be impossible, but you can forget it, and that's horror. So you need to write it down. It's not cinema, it's the idea in words, but it reminds you of the idea, and the idea is way different than the words, but the words keep you from forgetting it. And then you remembering that idea, you start laying the groundwork for translating that idea to cinema, and you go. And doesn't happen like that. It happens over a long period of time, different stages of the making of the film. So you've got to be always on guard to be true to the idea. And I always say too that but you have one script and 10 different directors. You're going to have 10 different films. The idea passes through the machinery of the filmmaker and comes out a certain way. But it's mainly the idea and a little bit of the machinery that make it be the way it is.
Who have been most formative, like if we take European author cinema, we know your admiration of Fellini, of course, but some others, maybe Louis Buñuel, for example.
I don't know Buñuel's work. People think that I would love Buñuel, but I don't even know, I can't remember a film I've seen of Buñuel. I love Fellini, I love Bergman, and I love Kubrick, Hitchcock, Jacques Tati. I love, films of Francis Ford Coppola and Marty Scorsese. I love films from Coen Brothers. I love films from Werner Herzog.
What about non-Western cinema? Do you watch, I don't know, for example, Japanese cinematography?
No, I'm not that much of a film buff. That's the thing.
I'm asking this because not just words, time also takes different dimension in your films and in your TV series as well, which is an absolutely amazing, unparalleled thing. Like the episode that I mentioned, there time is even like this free-flowing chain of associations, and that is very unusual for Western cinematography, especially American, especially for someone being part of Hollywood, maybe not the establishment per se, staying true to your vision, but still, in Hollywood everything is fast, linear. Television, and with Twin Peaks 25 years ago, you slowed down the pace so much, and you did it again. So is that a conscious decision to tamper with time, to let people, maybe meditation has to do something with that too?
It's a conscious thing for sure, but it's based on the idea. If, the idea tells you fast and slow, it tells you a feeling and a mood, it tells you what people look like, how they act, what their personality is, it tells you everything. And so you stay true to that. And, it's like I've seen some TV shows, I always say that this analogy of the water skier. You have to go very fast to stay on the surface of the water. If the boat slows down, the water skier sinks down. So a lot of these things seem just totally surface. There's no depth, because it just goes, and so there's very little feeling and very little room to dream, and it's not a thrilling thing to me.
A lot of people complain these days that it's not possible to stay true to artistic voice because of cultural industry, because of standardization, because of the ratings, and you are a clear exception throughout this decade, staying so true to your vision and your principles. Do you have any advice for maybe younger artists?
Sure.
How to do that?
It's very simple to do that.
And succeed.
Well, now that's not a guarantee. See, that's the problem. There's a bunch of stuff you could say, but I always say for anybody, find your own voice, stay true to the voice and true to the ideas. Never turn down a good idea, but never take a bad idea. Always have final cut. Insist upon final cut. If whoever these people are that are giving you the right to make this or funding it, they have to trust the filmmaker to make the film the way he or she wants it made. And if you don't have final cut, what you're saying is, this isn't my film. I will never be guaranteed that I can hold my head up high and say this is my work, because somebody's going to come in and fiddle with it. And I always say the painter is painting a picture. People don't come in and say, I don't like that particular blue, change that blue, or I don't like this. The artist would probably leap on the person and beat him, so it's the same way with all the arts. You have to have freedom, and you need support from the people you work with, and you should have fun in the doing. You should go down the road with like a family, working together and enjoying the work, and have a safe, happy feeling. I always say it's so important for actors to feel safe, because they need to say goodbye to their personality and take on another one and make it real. And if you have so much stress on the set and pressure, and it just makes it that much harder for them. If you have a great feeling and a feeling of not so much pressure, that you have time to get it right, this feeds them and makes them feel very, very good, and they can make it real on a deep, deep, deep level that way. It's very important, so important for the work. And if you're thinking about making money, that's another whole thing. Then it doesn't matter if you don't have Final Cut. You're going to get your money, and if that's the only thing you're interested in, then I don't, wouldn't want to even talk to them.
What would be your perspective on cinema or art interfering actively with existing power structures, political, social
You don't
messages?
even think about it.
But your films have made great
I
impact.
don't.
Elephant Man
They're
remains
not
as
about any kind of thing.
But it is a
I
film
know,
about
but-
marginalized.
I know, but like some people, they say, okay, I'm going to make a film about the marginalized people. And you start thinking about, well, what could that be? And you go like that. That's not the way I work. I heard about the Elephant Man in a restaurant, and as soon as I heard the name, an explosion went off in my brain, and it's the film I want to make. I didn't really know. I knew just from the name so much, but I didn't even know how I would know that. But I knew that that's the film I wanted to make, and it happened that I got to make it. And but I didn't make it to send any message. I made it because I loved the story and the time of the story and the mood of the story and all these different things that swam with, the story. So that's how come I made it.
Maybe that's why it's so powerful and remains. Was made in 1980, and to this day, it remains one of the most powerful, humane movies, I believe. But what about the opening scene of Blue Velvet, which has become over-quoted now? Everybody, I read one critic even said that you brought the colors of American flag to toxicity with the red, blue, and white, the flowers and fences and the sky, and the whole idea that this beautiful facade covers so much. Was that not a political or social message?
No. It's the way things are, but it's not made to talk about. There is a thing that is happening. There's the surface, and then there's things beneath the surface. And one of the things I've noticed is all these things that are coming to light these days have been going on for a long time. But now these things are getting exposed. And
But you were one of the first.
Well, it came with the ideas.
And since you mentioned things that are getting exposed, may I ask you about your perspective of current developments in Hollywood and around Hollywood? The scandal after scandal, almost every day we're waking up with...
Today I find out Charlie Rose has got it going.
Yes.
Charlie Rose, incredible.
Yes.
I love Charlie Rose.
What do you think of this process?
Just like everybody else, it's been going on, and Harvey Weinstein started this avalanche of exposing, wrong behavior, and many have been caught up in this avalanche. But I was saying, there's a thing that women are different than men.
In what ways?
In many ways. And the problem that lies with that's a thing. And men are quite attracted to women. And vice versa sometimes. So there's always like this kind of normal behavior, and just to the left and just to the right, there's what they call abnormal behavior. But the normal thing is always kind of changing, And it's coming up now to this thing of respecting, women and treating women as equals and, you know, starting to, you know, get a little bit better behavior going. And
So do you see it as a positive thing that will
Yeah.
lead to concrete results?
it's like, it's difficult to change people with laws or, you know, blogging, you know, but if they would practice Transcendental Meditation, this thing would happen that they'd start getting this combination of love and intelligence and happiness and inner peace. It conjures up a feeling of you don't want to hurt anyone. You don't want to hurt anyone or humiliate anyone, or you, maybe before you loved raping women, but now you don't like raping women anymore. You know, you feel bad about what you did, and you start wanting to treat women, you know, as human beings and equals, and showing them respect. And it just happens naturally. You change. When you dive within every day, you get all this positive flowing, and the negative that caused you to act strangely lifts away.
Violence against women and women as central characters are an underlying theme of your work. Yesterday we watched for 1,000th time, there was a screening in Tbilisi of Mulholland Drive, but of course Twin Peaks is again, for me
Can I
and for
smoke a
many...
cigarette here?
Yes, I believe you can. I know there are some feminist critics, I don't know if you read them, but you've attracted some criticism from certain feminists who find your depictions of femininity, masochism, female body as a site of violence, a bit maybe too much or too graphic. But to me and many, many others, your films, and Twin Peaks in particular, since it's very relevant now, is absolutely uncompromising, beautiful, if we may say so, in a very sad sense, depictions of female experience. Laura Palmer, and the question itself, who killed Laura Palmer, that it is not some concrete person, but this is some masculinist force, even if you like. That's how many people see it. And I know that when Fire Walk With Me came out, the film, many girls wrote you letters talking about abuse they had been through, so their own fathers or relatives or some.
That's another thing that came out, started being exposed.
So there's a lot of empathy towards women in your work. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
No. You know, these are characters in a story. And like a lot of people say, well, okay, this woman represents all women. It doesn't. It just represents them. Laura Palmer's Laura Palmer.
But she's the central character.
Yeah, I know, but that's because she's the central character. And she happens to, you know, have these situations, and the story is about that and other things, other characters too. There's many things going on. So it comes with the idea, and the idea wants to be a certain way, and then you discover that, oh, this is about, one of the things it's about is incest and, you know, abuse. And so look what it's done to, you know, to Laura, and look what it's led to, and what are these, you know, forces going, and so it makes people, you know, wonder and feel.
You've said it once that you fell in love with the character of Laura Palmer as a radiant on the surface but dying inside, a woman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, people put on a facade, like you say, but underneath they're dying, you know, they're filled with torment. And sometimes you can see it on their face, and but they have to hide it, or they feel they have to hide it. And now more and more they find it safe to talk about it. And so that's another thing that's coming along.
you say start out with ideas, and the idea of a lone male hero saving woman in trouble is one of the oldest tropes, I suppose, one of the oldest narratives. It's been coming up in myths and in fairy tales and in many movies and novels. And Agent Cooper's entire Odyssey or adventure is a wonderful take on this old narrative. And the way you ended the latest season was absolutely spectacular, phenomenal, open, and at the same time, to me at least, very concrete ending. So why did you find this idea attractive? A man trying to save a woman over and over again and failing at it?
It's a I don't know. Again, Mark and I didn't set out to do that. It came with the thing. It's amazing how it happens. It's I don't know if human beings ever really do something on their own. I think, like I say, these ideas are gifts, and you are very lucky if you catch them, and then your job is to be true to them. And that's been my experience. They come from somewhere, they're conjured by different things, and when they come in, you see them, you hear them, you know them, and then you know what to do.
Lots and lots has been written about your work, including in academia. Feminists, semioticians, postmodernists have written about your work. I was just wondering, do you read, what do you read about your work? Reviews?
Not that much. There was on Blue Velvet, Isabella Rossellini's ex-husband's mother was a psychiatrist, and she got together with 16 other psychiatrists, and they each wrote a paper on Blue Velvet. And I found that very interesting, what they saw in that that related to their work. And but that I don't even remember what I read, but I read some of those, and it's interesting. But I say we're all different on the surface. The film may remain exactly the same, every frame in the theater. It runs through the projector, but the audience is different every screening. And each person in the audience is different. And Susie's gonna get a certain thing from that film, and Sam is gonna get another thing. It's just the way it goes.
One of the things people have said many times about your work is postmodern. People find your work as...
I don't even know what postmodern means. It means it's beyond modern, or what is it?
Well, I suppose they mostly mean stylistically, because you are such a unparalleled master across so many genres, which was again illustrated in Twin Peaks, from comedy to tragedy, from mystery to... And also your films, from avant-garde Eraserhead to the Disney movie Straight Story to, I don't know, American pop culture bricolage like Wild at Heart, and I could go on, and and Blockbuster, of course.
You are very, very good, I must say.
I love your work.
You really are good.
There are aspects or moments when you seem to be taking, at least for us, the audience, a very clear stance. What's good, what's evil. Very, I would even say, moral stance, and that wouldn't be postmodern. Postmodern would be to see things in a relative way. So do you believe in the existence of such clear centers of good and evil, or does that also happen?
Yeah, I believe in that, yeah. They say that human beings are charged with how they treat their fellow man. And there's a law of nature: what you sow is what you reap. And so we're responsible for how we treat others. And we're responsible for our thoughts, words, and actions. And the way you know if something is bad, you can ask yourself, would I like what I'm about to do to this person to be happening to me? If the answer is no, that for you is a bad action. If you say, yes, I would love this, that for you is a good action. And these things come back. You know, every single present activity is creating our future. And a lot of our life is based on what we've done in the past. It's a very complicated, fantastic thing going on, but it's real, and it goes to how we treat our fellow man. That's it. It's real simple. We're supposed to be happy and treating each other well and be able to fulfill our desires without hurting others. In fact, in a perfect world, every time you would fulfill a desire, it would be good for you and it would be good for all others. And I believe we're headed toward a very beautiful, peaceful world. All these old, corrupt, negative things are being destroyed and illuminated and dealt with, and it's making way for a new thing. And that's what I believe.
So it's here among us, good and evil.
It's always here. On this earth, there's places where it's pure hell and places where it's pure heaven, going on this planet all at once.
Thank you. And really, very quickly, since we're here in Georgia, post-Soviet sphere, were you aware in the 1990s the impact that Twin Peaks was making in the post-Soviet years? And also, you probably know the fact that Gorbachev called Bush to find out
Who killed Lord Palmer? Saw the cartoon, yeah.
So did you know about that? That we were
No,
all
not
watching?
really. The strange thing is, you know, they say man has control of action alone, never the fruits of the action. So when you do a thing and release it in the world, you're not in control anymore.
It has its own life.
So it's got its own life. It's going to go the way it goes. What was so surprising is Twin Peaks traveled around the world, and people in all different kind of cultures appreciated it for some reason. It was amazing. It's really fantastic.
Mr. Lynch, there are not enough words for me to express how grateful, how happy and thrilled I am. We will never forget this day. Thank you so much for everything and for this particular hour.
You keep enjoying dancing the dance of the seven veils.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Okay.